But let's now go, Jim, to the final portion of the show. Obviously, that means it's time for Guess the Program.
Oh, that's how it was obvious to me. It smacked me right in the face.
Well, this is the game where I smack you in the face with wrestling history, and you smack us back with your knowledge of wrestling history. We go through programs in my collection, and we give you the card, we being me. It is me, hello.
Yes.
Have I explained any of this?
No. You're going to read me a lineup from one of your programs, and I, in my borderline mystical way, am going to give you the year and the location of that event.
That is correct. Let's go to this first one here. The first bout, 30 minutes. Jack Umberto versus Pat O'Hara. The second bout, 30 minutes. Ernie Dusick versus Harry Fields.
Oh, good Lord.
The third bout, 30 minutes. Charlie Strack versus Mehmet Youssef.
Can you give me a spelling on Strack?
Strack.
Mehmet Youssef. Okay.
Youssouf. The fourth bout, 30 minutes. George Zaharias versus Vic Christie.
Good Lord.
The fifth bout, 30 minutes. Joe Malkowitz versus Joe Savoldi. And the wind-up, one fall to a finish. Jim Landis versus Everett Marshall.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Your Landis fascination has led you to get a pioneer program. Pat O'Hara was a fairly well-known journeyman wrestler back in the 30s and 40s, as I believe. Ernie Dusick, obviously a member of the Dirty Dusicks, the Riot Squad, Ernie, Emil. Oh, my God. Ernie, Emil, Rudy, and who was the other one?
Captain Frank.
No. Frank, but Frank was an offspring of Wally Dusick.
Of Fantasyland.
Well, Wally Dusick was not necessarily a Dusick, but neither was Danny Dusick. But nevertheless, who was the other Dusick? Ernie, Emil, Rudy, and
Liza.
I'm blank. Oh, never mind.
I don't remember.
George Zaharias was married to Babe Diedrichson. Vic Christie. Vic and Ted Christie were a brother team and combination and noted ribbers. Joe Malkowitz, he was still wrestling. He would later on become the promoter in San Francisco that Roy Shire would go in and unseat. Am I correct? Joe Savoldi was Angelo Savoldi's brother.
Wait.
Was he not?
You mean Angelo Savoldi from WWF? Angelo Savoldi?
For the originals, the original
No
Angelo
relation.
Savoldi. They were not related?
No The Savaldis were not Savaldis.
Well,
the
goddamn
original Jumping Joe Savoldi is no relation to the Joe Savoldi that was in Mid-South in 84.
I thought that Joe Savoldi that was in Mid-South in 1984 was the son of the original Jumpin' Joe Savoldi. That's what I thought, but I thought that Joe Savoldi was related to Angelo Savoldi.
Joe Savoldi in Mid-South was the son of Angelo Savoldi, I believe. The brother of Mario Savoldi.
But he wasn't the son of Joe Savoldi.
No, because I don't think Savoldi's their real name.
Well, goddamn it, somebody's lying. And anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
Everett Marshall was a former world champion. Didn't Thez beat him for his first world title, did he not? And of course, everybody knows who Jim Landos is, but the question is, when and where was this? I'm feeling the West Coast because of Christie and Zaharias and Malkowitz, and it would be a major market to have a Landos-Marshall world title match, and area of time goddamn, are we looking at late 30s or early 40s? 1938 in San Francisco.
All right, there were a couple numbers there that are right. Friday, February 9th, 1934.
Ah, son of a bitch.
Convention Hall, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Promotion Ray Fabiani Incorporated.
Son of a bitch.
There is an image on the back of this program that's fascinating.
I wouldn't have thought Vic Christie was working in 1934, but go ahead.
After all is said and done, and then it's a drawing. I'm going to make a copy of this, send this to you. It's the scale of justice, I guess. And the person holding it up, it says, Honesty, Fabiani. And then on the side that's going up, it says, Jack Pfeffer, Wiener, as another person, Hot Air, and on the other side is the press, the Penna Commission, the wrestler, the referee, the sportsman, the sports writers, public opinion, and wrestling is in the background. So obviously this is in the middle of Jack Pfeffer's war with every promoter that wasn't Jack Pfeffer.
Yes, it was.
All right, well that's the first
and
program.
I bombed on that one.
All right, let's get another one here.
Those are so hard to pin down blind.
That's true. The first match, Larry Lane versus Tom Pritchard.
Okay.
The second encounter, Buck Robley versus Sweet Brown Sugar. The next bout, Bruiser Brody versus Moon Mulligan. There's a name you don't hear too often anymore.
Moon Mulligan.
The main event, a tag team match, Tully Blanchard and Gino Hernandez versus Terry and Dory Funk Jr.
All righty. Well, as soon as you said Larry Lane, I said, what part of Texas is this going to be? And Tom Pritchard spent time in San Antonio. Buck Robley, noted Mid-South booker, and Colonel Buckley Christopher Yellowbelly Buck Robley was at various points in the Mid-South and Texas territories, a top heel or a top babyface. He could work and he could talk. He looked like complete dog shit, but he was friends with Brody and could get Brody to do things other people couldn't. And Sweet Brown Sugar would have been Skip Young. Brody, obviously, speaks for himself. Who was Moon Mulligan? Is there a picture?
There's not a picture. I remember him. I'm not going to say anything else because it may be a giveaway, but
right.
I remember who it is from videotapes.
Anyway, and Tully and Gino, of course, were the Flair and Valentine of Southwest Wrestling, and Terry and Dory probably came in to put them over because of their relationship with Joe Blanchard, Tully's father, who was the San Antonio promoter. And the Funks would do business with a lot of the other territories in Texas. Remember when we were talking about that American Tag Team title belt that was being auctioned at Heritage, we said that Terry and Dory were the ones that came into Dallas to put Kevin and David Von Erich over in the initial championship match. So it would be a team of world-class stature that put the new champions over. Point being, this is the San Antonio territory, but 4 matches for a card in San Antonio seems a little light unless this was one of the down periods. And from what I remember about Tom's earlier career, and is this, what else? What other town would be running in San Antonio? Well, fuck it. San Antonio, 1981.
The date, November 21st, 1981, 8 p.m. start time, Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock. All right, then. So that's what they were running opposite. Was that a Funk card, or were they running opposite to the Funks? Was it the other way around? Did Tully and Gino come in from San Antonio to put Dorian Terry over.
Well, again, by this point, it says Nick Roberts promoter, which it had for a long time on these programs.
So that was the Dallas office and the Lubbock promotion, so it was not Southwest.
It's Southwest, though, because...
But Nick Roberts was getting talent from them then.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, because you asked me about Moon Mulligan. I remember him when the first footage I ever saw of Southwest Championship Wrestling was Moon Mulligan. It was all these guys, Dick Slater, Tom Pritchard.
Well, then by the time that we got there in late 1984, early 1985, Nick Roberts had split off Lubbock and Amarillo from the Southwest office and was getting talent from Fritz in Dallas. Well, there you go.
Well, you got the year.
I got the year.
Let's go to
I got the state.
Got the state. This next one here, I got to be a little delicate with it. The opening bout, one fall, 30-minute time limit. Jack Welch versus Chris Averott.
Wait a minute.
Averott.
I think isn't it Averoff?
Oh, I don't know.
I think they misspelled it. It should be Averoff, but go ahead.
Well, let's blame the office, whatever they sent in. Charlie Keene versus Ramon Torres. In a no time limit, masks at stake, masks being pluralized here, the Bat versus Al Torres, who I assume is wearing a mask, because it says masks are at stake. Finally, the main event, a return grudge match, winner take all, no disqualification, masks at stake, Jack Welch, one of two referees, best 2 out of 3 falls, the Medics versus Pat O'Connor and Jackie Fargo.
And the masks at stake, I think, was probably a misprint because both main events had masks at stake. So in the single match with the Bat is what I'm trying to say to you.
Well,
I'm go ahead.
No. I'll wait till after you guess because I just saw something on the cover that isn't okay. Go ahead.
Well, Jack Welch was the youngest. Well, I don't know if he was the youngest, but Roy Welch, Herb Welch, Lester Welch, and Jack Welch were the 4 Welch brothers, and Jack was the one who wrestled really the least and was the least well-known and remembered. Charlie Keene was an old-time Southern heel in the Tennessee territory in, probably anywhere from the 40s to 50s through the early 60s. Al and Raymond Torres were, at least if it's ones I'm thinking about, were Hispanic baby faces of the 60s. I can't remember who the Bat was in the Nick Gulas territory, Gulas Welch territory, and the Medics versus Pat O'Connor and Jackie Fargo. I'm going to go with Memphis, Tennessee in 1964.
The date? Tuesday, September 11th, 1962. Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, not Memphis. Okay.
The Bat, weighing 260 pounds, will make his first appearance in the capital city this Tuesday night.
With the mask at stake?
Matched against the popular Al Torres, who made his debut here 2 weeks ago. Teamed with his brother Raymond in a tag team bout. Nashville promoters Nick Gulas and Roy Welch have announced the Bat will put his mask at stake Tuesday night in a no time limit event.
And what happened to Alberto Torres?
Alberto Torres was Ox Baker.
Yep. Well, he wasn't Ox Baker.
He became Ox Baker, ladies and gentlemen.
No, Alberto Torres was the wrestler who died a couple of days after his last match with Ox Baker, and that was one, and along with Ray Gunkel, Baker took credit for it with the heart punch, but it was a ruptured appendix or something like that.
See your favorite wrestlers in action, WSIX TV, Channel 8, Saturday, 10 p.m.
Yes, yeah, in Nashville. The call letters for Channel 8 were WSIX because they early on in television, back in the early 50s, they had moved to get a stronger signal, but they still had the same call letters. And Pat O'Connor was teaming up with Jackie Fargo because, for no other reason than Nick, being the NWA, aficionado that he was, always wanted to, juice up the relationship with the St. Louis office, and that's where O'Connor was working at the time.
Here's Ruth's Comic Corner. For a comedy definition, send me your work. Alimony. I don't know what this is. Alimony. A man's cash surrender value to a system by which one pays for the mistake of two. Bald-headed man. One who has less hair to comb, but more face to wash. Bareback. Nudists on horses always ride bareback. Bathing beauties. A girl worth waiting for. And
worth waiting for.
Oh, you know what? That's right. Waiting for. And finally, payments. The easiest way for a driver to lose control of a car is forget to make the payment. That was Ruth's Comedy Corner. Thank you, Ruth. Let's get one more program here, at least one more.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I dropped the other ones.
I got to hit a home run here.
Let's get this. This is an interesting one. Let me be delicate with it. Let me turn it over. All right. The opening bout. By the way, the first bout in the ring at 8:30 p.m., says here. Opening bout, Kit Fox, New Mexico, versus Jock Bernard, Canada.
Why don't you just go George Hackenschmidt?
A special bout, Midget Australian Tag Team bout, Tiny Roe and Fuzzy Cupid versus Sonny Boy Cassidy and Pee Wee James. The semifinal, Steve Crusher Casey, Ireland, versus Manuel Cortez, East Boston. An elimination test, I don't know what that means. Yukon Eric, Alaska, versus Golden Terror, 2 question marks. And the main bout, the World's Heavyweight Championship, Don Eagle, Mohawk Indian Champion, versus Mr. Rex, Mystery Challenger.
Hokey dokey.
Oh, wow.
Kit Fox was a top Indian star in the 50s. Tiny Roe, Fuzzy Cupid, Sonny Boy Cassidy, and Pee Wee James were pretty much the first round of midget wrestlers in the business, right? Fuzzy Cupid was the guy. He was the attraction at that time.
Yeah, and as I read this, it made me think maybe you would know. When did Sky Lolo enter the picture? Because he became the face of midget wrestling for a lot of people for a number of years.
Yes, he was probably, late 50s, early... I mean, he started before that, but when he would have taken over as the recognized top midget would have been about that time. Fuzzy Cupid was around a little while beforehand. Steve Casey was used as Paul Bowser's world champion in Boston when Boston was its own promotion, and they drew huge crowds up there and ran Boston weekly in the 40s and 50s, even before television. 3 weeks they'd go to the Boston Arena, and the 4th they'd go to the Boston Garden. Yukon Eric, obviously fucking big baby face from the Great White North that lost his ear to Killer Kowalski, the Golden Terror, don't know in this instance. Don Eagle was another great Indian star of the 50s and is the one who got double-crossed by Gorgeous George, right, in that world title match in Chicago.
He is one of those people in the argument for the biggest stars for a period of time that are like almost completely forgotten.
Yeah.
You never hear them brought up. But I hear he's billed as the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and at that time, he was on the cover of the early 50s magazines, the nationwide national newsstand magazines. Don Eagle. So this,
And he was all over early TV out of Chicago.
and that's why I was, boy, I want to say because of Steve Casey and Yukon Eric and Don Eagle, I want to say this is Boston. And also, I believe Fuzzy Cupid, because Sky Low Low was French Canadian. They were based out of Montreal. I think Fuzzy Cupid may have been the same. But at the same time, is this a swerve? Is this one of those, early Chicago fucking? But no, I'm gonna say Boston in 19. And I ought to know this because I have an incredible Paul Bowser program collection that our buddy Sheldon Goldberg hooked me up with. That half or more of the programs from 1946 through 1952. But is this Boston 1951?
Well, this is a good one to end on. Jim, the All-Star Wrestling event, Boston Arena.
Okay.
Thursday, June 21st, 1951.
Holy shit.
So we're ending today on this because you got a home run, but there's a few interesting things in here. Great job, by the way. Let's really commend you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
This I find interesting. So this is 1951. There's a little ad here because it's almost newspaper style. Don Eagle novelties and photos. And it has the prices. Boy t-shirts, sizes 4 to 14, $1. Leather belts, size 22 to 32, $1. Don Eagle Eversharp pencil, $1. Indian dolls, prince or princess, $2.50. Indian war bonnet, $2.50. Scarfs, $1. Vests, 50 cents. Hankies, 35 cents. Photos, black and white, 25 cents. Photos colored, 35 cents. Send to Golden Eagle Company, 302 South Market Street, Chicago 6, Illinois. Exclusive distributors of Don Eagle photos and novelties. Send check, cash, or money order. No COD, please. Add 10 cents for mailing.
Do the kids even know what COD is? They don't do that anymore, do they?
When was the last time you heard that on TV or anything? I don't think so.
Yeah, collect on delivery. You could order it and they would send it by the post office, telling the post office you need to collect $6.45 or whatever, and they would actually pay the post person, and then they'd give them the thing, they'd put the money back in the deal. It was insane.
But in terms of early merch, I mean, Don Eagle, he is one of those guys from that era. There's very few. Gene Stanley obviously was all over that stuff.
Yeah.
But merchandising themselves, and I mean, he had pencils, he had shirts, he had belts and vests and scarves.
Well, and think about this. In 1951, that's the same year that maybe the year after, the Lone Ranger came on television. There's Tonto, and Westerns are starting to be a big deal on TV, and the Indian get-up and outfit had, the feathers and the color, and you could do the war drums, and it was fucking pageantry. It was unique and exotic for the average person in Boston or Chicago or wherever to see this full Native American regalia going on.
Let's get a few other things here. Here's a quote about Don Eagle versus Mr. Rex. Here's a quote from Don Eagle. "Who's this Mr. Rex?" "Well, my father has an inkling, because his father was his manager, remember?
Yeah.
And he's building me up accordingly. He has watched him, and he thinks he has a trick or two up his sleeve that can turn the balance wheel in my favor. That's why I need to know. If Dad has the solution, or thinks he has, all I have to do to carry out his orders. But I'm not taking this guy lightly. To me, he's every bit as dangerous as Argentina Rocca or any other." So we don't know who Mr. Rex is. There's not a picture here. But the headline...
And that was some kind of local angle that they were running with probably some, identifiable veteran under a mask or whatever.
"Fans may discover identity of Mr. Rex. There's a terrific guessing game going on now to try and guess the correct name of the wrestler masquerading as Mr. Rex. Some fans are willing to bet their eye teeth. Their eye teeth? The fuck does that mean? Do you know what that means?
Well, I mean, you know what eye teeth are.
What are eye teeth?
That's an old expression, the eye teeth, the ones in the back of your mouth. Mama Cornette used to say, oh, my tongue lopped over my eye teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying.
I never heard them called that before, no.
But does that mean that someone is a dentist or someone that bit someone or what? That's a clue of some kind, but we don't know what's going on.
Some fans are willing to bet their eye teeth that Mr. Rex is none other than Stan Dusek, one of the famed rioting Duseks who were familiar figures in these parts.
Wait, he's not the one with, no, there was no goddamn original Dusek named Stan Dusek.
Still other fans are just as sure he is Fritz Schnabel of Hartford, Connecticut in real life. And still others have guessed that he is Paul Lordy, the French-Canadian wrestler who appeared here several times.
And those are names that have been heard of at that point in time in the business.
Oddly enough, both Dusek and Schnabel are members of wrestling families. Oddly enough. And so the guessing game goes on. Who is Mr. Rex? There is a good possibility that we may know the answer come Thursday night. And will Mr. Rex's pride ever be shattered when he is finally forced to pull the hood off his face? Fans are reminded, however, that Mr. Rex has stipulated that he will not remove the hood if he loses on a disqualification. He must be beaten in the ring.
Yeah.
Take it from Mr. Rex, here's a quote. It's no easy job traveling around this country and trying to keep your identity a secret. Whenever he comes to a city to wrestle, he is forced to spend practically all of his time cooped up in his hotel room. He dare not go outside his room for fear someone will spot him and recognize him. Accordingly, he usually has his meals sent to his room, where he eats them by his lonesome. It's no easy matter keeping his identity a secret, and Mr. Rex may be just as relieved as anyone when he is finally beaten and able to walk around the avenues again without hiding from everyone. Well, there it is. There's another headline, Namby-pamby guys out in wrestling, from Don Eagle, a column by Don Eagle. But there it is. Guess the program.